Alright guys, welcome back. So in this one, we're talking about quadratic functions. And we're still in the same topic about domain and range. In the last video, we were talking about domain and range for linear examples. Now this one's quadratic. And it says here in this teak, determine the domain and range of quadratic functions and represent the domain and range using inequalities. So again, you might see some inequalities, and in this case, your answer choices have the inequalities. Which statement about the function nx equals 5x squared minus 20x plus 12 is true? So in other words, you have to understand this example, this function right here, in order for you to be able to cross out the wrong answers or figure out the right answer. So, those of you that are in my class, you guys have your graphing calculators. So use the graphing calculators, guys. Take that to your advantage. So let me go ahead and graph this. Right here, I already opened up the graph. All I have to do is type this into the calculator. I'm going to go ahead and press 5x squared minus 20x plus 12. So as you see here, this is my quadratic function. And we knew it was going to look like a U-shaped graph because it has an x squared, and it tells us it's a quadratic function. By now you guys should know that linear functions are straight lines, quadratic functions are U-shaped graphs, and exponential functions, they grow and then decay really fast. So from here, you can tell that it's going in an upward direction forever. So the range of this graph, it's going to have a minimum somewhere down here, but it does not have a maximum. The domain for any function that's continuous is always going to be all real numbers because this graph will never stop expanding. Before we look at the answer choices, let's go ahead and find the minimum of this graph. So for those of you that remember how to find the minimum, great. If you don't remember how to find the minimum, pay attention right here, guys. I'm going to show you how to find the minimum. You can also go to a trace and then just move the cursor all the way down to the bottom. But let me show you how to find the minimum. You press menu, and then you're going to go to number 6, analyze graph. And in this section, you can do a lot of things here. So we want to find the minimum, number 2. Wherever this thing lands on, guys, it's okay. You can start from left to right, or you can start from right to left. So right here, if I click on this graph right here, now it's telling me to find the upper bound. So I can just scoot it across, just slide your finger across the calculator, select it, and it tells you the minimum right here. The minimum of this graph is located at -8, the y values. So that's pretty much all we need. Let's go ahead and take a look at the answer choices. The domain of the function is x is greater than or equal to 2. That's going to be false, guys. Remember, the domain for any continuous function is always all real numbers. So letter A, and if you look at letter C, they're going to be wrong because they're telling you that the domain starts at a certain number. That means it's being restricted, but the domain is not restricted. It continues forever. So we can cross out A and C. Now let's take a look at the range. The range of the function says that it's nx. Nx, guys, this is the same as f of x, the function of x, which is what we see in the calculator, which is the same as y. Y is going to be greater than or equal to -8. -8, guys, this number right here is the one that we saw. That was the minimum value of the graph that we saw in the calculator. And if you look here, the range of the function says that the y values is going to be less, remember this is less or equal to 12. But no, guys, it does not stop. It keeps going forever and ever and ever. So this is going to be wrong. This is the right answer because it is greater than or equal to -8. This example, you see a table, and they're asking you for the range. If you remember about domain and range, here you don't see the letter y, but remember, this is the name of the function. So g of x is the same as f of x, the function of x, and the function of x is the same as the y values. So this is the same as y. We don't need to find the domain. They're not asking anything about the domain, guys. They're only asking us about the range. So you need to find all these values and figure out what the answer would be. All real numbers less than or equal to 3/2. There's not even a 3/2 in this table. So more than likely it's going to be the wrong answer. Now, if you're not familiar with fractions, guys, you need to use your calculator so you can convert those fractions into decimals to see if it's going to be less than, greater than, greater than. So let's go ahead and take a look here. I mean, this one's wrong because 3/2 is not even a part of this answer. All real numbers less than or equal to 19/4. If you look here, there's 19/4. But what is 19/4 as a decimal? because we need to determine whether that's going to be the greatest value amongst all these. Actually, it says all real numbers less than or equal to. Yeah, so we need to determine if this is going to be the greatest value. All real numbers greater than or equal to this. Okay, again, 3/2 is not a part of the range, so this one's also wrong. All real numbers that are greater than or equal to this. Now, this is one way you can use process of elimination without having to use a calculator. It's telling you here that the range is going to consist of all the numbers that are greater than this fraction. Now, I don't know what this fraction is as a decimal, but I do know one thing. This is positive. And they're telling you here that every range value has to be greater than this number that is positive. But what do you notice about this range value right here? This one's negative. Is a negative number ever going to be greater than a positive number? It's not, guys. So that's how you know that this one's also wrong. Without even having to do any calculations, I already figured out that this is my only answer left. All real numbers less than or equal to 19/4. In this example, we have graphs, and they're asking you to find the range that are going to be greater than or equal to 3. The range is going to be the y values. So all I'm looking for is this right here, all the y values. Okay, this is important right here. But not even so much, I need to go further down. All I care about is the greater than or equal to 3. Remember, on the y values, the higher that you go, the greater the value. So I'm imagining that this graph is going to be at a minimum of 3 and everything else goes above. So if you see a graph that is pointing down, that's already wrong. For example, letter F is wrong because it's going down, that's wrong. G is out, and now these two are both pointing up, so that's good. But we need to start at 3. 3 is the minimum. So if you look at this one's located at -3, so that's wrong. This one's located at +3. That's going to be the right answer, guys. In this last example, we're talking about exponential functions. Determine the domain and range of exponential functions of the form f of x equals a times b to the power x, and represent the domain and range using inequalities. So just like quadratics, they're talking about using inequalities, and linear functions as well, but linear functions, they can ask you in different ways. Which statement about this function, p of x, is equal to -7 times 4 to the x is true? This is a continuous function, so the domain, we should already know the domain of any continuous function. It's going to be all real numbers. The domain is all real numbers greater than or equal to 4. Yeah, guys, it's not going to just be restricted. The domain of any continuous function is always a real number, so it's not going to be a. And let's look at letter C. The domain is all real numbers less than or equal to 0. Again, the same thing. The domain is not restricted. Any continuous function, the domain is all real numbers. The range is all real numbers. On exponential functions, the domain is not all real, the range is not all real numbers. So just by process of elimination, the answer here would be letter B. The range is all real numbers less than or equal to 0. If you look here, I just graphed it, and it looks like the graph does not go above 0. It is less than 0. Less than 0. The range is all real numbers less than 0. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys understood some of the domain and range here. If you have any questions, just go ahead and ask me in class. Have a great day.